We sit here tonight right at the border between that constituency where I am a candidate in this upcoming general election, and that is St. Philip South, which begins right by the roundabout. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome my fellow constituents over on the west, and also those from the St. Philip South constituency. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this election is what we would call a watershed election. It'll be a watershed election year. And I say that simply to highlight the fact that Barbados has some very serious decisions to make come the 19th of January. Decisions which will ultimately affect your children and your children's children, and undoubtedly yourself. But when you're a parent, as I am, and I'm sure that many of you are, things that you are prepared to endure, you do not at all wish upon your children. And we have seen since May 2018, Barbados slip in every single aspect of social and economic areas that has raised serious concern and must raise serious concern for all right-thinking Barbadians. Now, no one expected this general election to be called 3 short years after the election that ushered in that unprecedented election in 2018, which gave to the Barbados Labour Party all 30 seats. One would have thought that having 30 seats, such a strong mandate, and having all these grandiose plans and agendas, that the current government would use the benefit of time to implement all of their programs, so that by the time the election was constitutionally due, that they would have something to show you. But unfortunately for them, and I say fortunately for us, that adventure, because I can call it nothing else, that adventure embarked upon that in May 2018, an adventure and an experiment has led Barbados down a path that, thank God, has been arrested by, it would seem, several factors. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the question is often asked, what could have precipitated such an early election? Now, let me say this to you. I can think of only 3 factors. One, this current administration, through its lack of policies and programs, has lost touch and been falling out of disfavor with the public of Barbados at an alarming rate that, if not stemmed sooner, could result in the government, the party, the Barbados Labour Party, falling over that precipice. The second factor is that, bearing in mind that we are in an IMF program, And given that the Prime Minister has given some not so veiled hints that tough decisions will need to be made this year, one could only, I suppose, speculate, or at least let me use the legal term, the inference has to be drawn that the Prime Minister has some hardship decisions to impose upon the people of Barbados. And therefore, is seeking a mandate not to impose those hardship decisions, but seeking a mandate to put themselves back into power for the next 5 years, hoping that some of their colleagues would be able to acquire a pension. Because that seems now to be one of the prime reasons that some of these adventurers find themselves presenting themselves for political office. The third reason is that the Prime Minister, faced with some internal challenges, has decided that rather than those challenges be brought to a head by her colleagues going to the President and declaring, like most Barbadians have already made up in their mind to declare, that they have absolutely no confidence in her, she did like that child in the neighborhood who owns the cricket bat and the ball. She pulled up stumps, dissolved Parliament, and called an election. And of course, that election, we know, caught them down with their pants, because we were reading and seeing all the signs, that would have led either to the calling of a general election in Barbados or the rapid decline in the behavior of many frustrated persons in this country. And no one could, it only takes a bit of common sense to recognize where that would lead us. And that indeed is an area or a place that no one wishes to go. But ladies and gentlemen, let me say this to you. The Democratic Labour Party, of course, and of which Dr. David Estwick, your next representative, it stands ready to salvage what the government has managed to wreck within the 3 short years. And not only Dr. David Estwick, but you can count Michael Lashley. You can also count on myself, so that St. Philip will lead the charge to the return of democracy and good governance, accountability, transparency, and anti-corruption. Of course, you can rest assured that all of the Democratic Labour Party candidates will put a sufficiently good showing in this general election to ensure that come the 20th of January 2022, we will witness for the first time in history that you've had a one-term government in Barbados. You know, it has been reported today in the press that the Prime Minister has basically begged Barbadians not to vote for the Democratic Labour Party by using the rules that they may feel to vote for an opposition and end up getting a government. But I want to say to her that come the 19th of January, that Barbados will be returned to its democratic roots when the Democratic Labour Party is returned to office, which has been the intention of you, the people of St. Philip's South West, the people as well of St. Philip's South, North, and all the other constituencies represented by the Democratic Labour Party. So that she is very much correct when she says that when you go to the polls, well, let me rephrase that. She has it wrong. You are not going to the polls to give an opposition. You are going to the polls to give a government. And she must know that beginning in St. Philip, the march towards democracy will recommence in Barbados. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you that the three candidates in this general election from St. Philip have some wonderful plans earmarked for this parish. You know quite well that we, though being from distinct, these artificial constituencies, we all see ourselves as Philippians. So that Michael Lashley in the north, David Estwick in the west, and Neil Marshall in the south have collectively put our heads together, and we have sat down and we have devised a whole developmental plan for St. Philip, with this hub here of 6 roads at the center. But as I said again, tonight is not the night in which we shall present those plans. They will come in due course in this campaign and be better expressed by all 3 of these candidates. But ladies and gentlemen, this meeting tonight is in support of the candidacy of Dr. David Estwick. And he needs no introduction to this constituency. He has given yeoman service for 3 consecutive parliamentary terms to this constituency, 2 terms of which he served as a minister of government. And I dare say to you that over the last 3 years, that he has served as the unofficial representative for St. Philip West. Because he has always, since May 2018, remained in and among you each and every day, taking your calls, taking the fight, and articulating to you the plans and programs that he has in store for you whenever that bell was rung. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the bell has been rung. And it is now your duty, it is now your turn to acknowledge the representation that David Estwick has given and continued to give from May 2018 right up to today's date in January 2022. So desperate is the government that they have gone the length and breadth of this constituency. They have gone the length and breadth of this constituency of St. Philip West. They have gone the length and breadth of St. Philip South. And they have gone the length and breadth of St. Philip North in making sure that they remove the posters of myself, David Estwick, and Michael Lashley. But it does not matter. They can remove any amount of posters that they want. We don't need face recognition in our constituencies. David Estwick does not need face recognition in St. Philip West. They know who he is. Michael Lashley does not need face recognition in St. Philip North. The people in St. Philip North already know who he is. And the people in St. Philip South do not need posters to recognize the face of Neil Marshall, who is a constituent himself and moves freely and easily and comfortably among the people of St. Philip South. We don't need those. But the three incumbents, Sonia Brown, in Norway, and the newcomer, they need to plaster 6 and 7 posters all over these 3 constituencies, because since May 2018, no one has seen them and therefore has lost touch as to who they are or what they look like. I have had to, and I say this in all honesty, when these posters first came up, I spent 2 days driving around, just glancing at them on the poles, because of their eyesight. But I honestly didn't recognize who the person was in St. Philip South, to the point where I had to pull the car over, get out and look at the picture to recognize the basic outline of someone I once knew. And that has been the experience of persons in St. Philip North. And let me say this to you, don't let it be the experience of the people in St. Philip West. So ladies and gentlemen, I have to attend our meeting and candidates launch in Haggett Hall. But I want to commend to you your candidate for the Democratic Labour Party, who needs no introduction in these parts. But just for the avoidance of doubt, I ask you that come January the 19th, Wednesday, January the 19th, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., that you go in your numbers, you take your family, you call your friends, and you go to the assigned polling station, and you make such an indelible X in that box. And when I say indelible, I want to stress that if you have to press and break off that pencil point, you do that. Right next to that box, alongside the name of David Cleveland Estwick. I also want you to urge your friends across the border in St. Philip South and in St. Philip North to do exactly the same to those boxes for Michael Lashley and Neil Anderson Marshall, so that come the late hours of January the 19th or the wee hours of the morning of January 20th, that the presiding returning officer can declare each of these candidates as being the duly elected representatives for the 3 constituencies of St. Philip North, St. Philip South, and no doubt St. Philip West. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Biggity. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. St. Philip people know this is true. Estwick.
Talk about leadership in between introducing speakers. And I'm going to ask you a question again. What kind of leadership do you want for this island? Do you want a leader who lifts, supports, and makes young men stronger, makes young women stronger? Or do you want the one on the other side that is followed by a bunch of geldings because they were castrated and neutered and politically crushed to follow her? That is why when they talk about there's no possible leadership, they mean on that side. Because on this side, not only do we have Mr. Pisa, we have Dr. David Estwick, we have Mr. Michael Lashley, we have Mr. Neil Marshall, we have Mr. Richard Seeley, and the list goes on and on. And it is now my pleasure to introduce to you a man who's going to come out here and he will bring to you Dr. David Estwick. He's the man that wrote the song. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobo.
I can't see so good. I need people closer to me. Sorry, I can't see so good. Good night, everybody. Good night, St. Philip West. How you feeling? No, they say across the election, across the entire landscape of Barbados, B's and D's are telling me the same thing. That Estwick campaign sounds sweet. So let me vibe. I can bring energy to all of y'all who canvassing, sweating day in, day out. Keep pumping, keep supporting. I come to give you a little energy and a little vitamin, biggity boy. DJ, let me go. Biggity. I want to sing with me. The best pick is Estwick. Sing the thing. The best pick is Estwick. Sounding good, the best pick is Estwick. Tell me who's the best pick, David. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? St. Philip people know this is true. Estwick always for you. Tell me who's the best. Sing! Pull up, DJ. Pull up. Well, that sound too good, man. I may say Estwick massive, are you ready? Run it, DJ. Let everybody that's streaming see the vibe. Let me go. The best pick is. Let me hear you sing that the best pick is. Blow your horn. The best pick is. Tell them who's the best pick. Make way for the people's champ. The only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? St. Philip people know this is true. Estwick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? Hear the list. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Estwick always for you. So if you see K, tell she I say. See, the best pick is louder than the company. The best pick is left forces can hear you. The best pick is. Tell me who's the best pick. Tell me who's the best pick. Who's St. Philip Westwood? Tell them to don't mess with David. Ladies and gentlemen, join me. Clap your hands. Everybody do clap. Come. Clap, 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 clap. Introducing your next representative for the constituency of St. Philip West. My brother, my brethren, the real man, Dr. David!
Good evening to the good residents of 6 Rose, Marshfield, and also those persons in Marshfield Development, and those persons in Farm Road, and those other persons who can hear my voice this evening. I am here as the representative, someone who is asking you to stand with me and give me your support in the next general election. I am not here this evening to make mock sport. I am here this evening because I feel committed and dedicated to make sure that I can play a part in improving and making lives better for you and your family. If it is that I believe that I could not do that job, I would stand home and rest myself. I believe that I have a record that I can stand on in regards to representation in St. Philip West. I can tell you, and I don't really need to because you know the truth. And whether you are BLP or DLP or any other P, you have to be honest with yourself, because the representation that I would have put down during a difficult period of time is unmatched by the person who I lost to. And the new person has never done anything in her life. And the record that I speak to are as follows. Even during a difficult time in this country, now called the Great Recession between 2008 and 2018, this is what I was able to do. I was able to fix Packers Road. I was able to fix Street Road. I was able to fix Louders Hill Road. I was able to fix Brayton number 2. I was able to fix Edgecombe Hill. I was able to fix Harlington and the train road up to 99%. All that was required was paving. I was the minister that sent nobody home from my ministry during the crisis. I used my skills and capacity and understanding of finance and economics to create job opportunities for everybody in this constituency like water. And the facts of life are there for them to see. And Ebenezer, I did Evelyn Road. I also did Hamlin Road next to Lottie Shop. And I did all of that in the crisis. Almost 4 years went by. And under John King, when he was minister, not one road was done in St. Philip. Not one system was put in place. So I will put my record against them any time of the day or night.
Oh man!
And that is a fact of life. You go around this constituency and you will hear from the young men how many people I help morning, noon, and night. But my mother tell me, son, don't talk about people business. Keep it to yourself. So I will never tell you or nobody how many children I send school, how many bills I would have to pay every day and every week. And I can tell you tonight that one of the most fundamental things that I will make sure the Democratic Labour Party do again, that the Barbados Labour Party destroyed because they didn't understand the value of the constituency councils. We need to refund and fund the constituency councils to make sure that we have breakfast programs in this constituency. We used to provide return to school supplies for people. We used to give them books. We used to give them shoes and everything. 3.5, 4 years, they did nothing. And what for me is rather a travesty is that after doing nothing for John, you give him a slap against his head and say goodbye. And he's so ignorant, he take it. He take it. Look, I want to proffer a solution tonight for 4 problems that plague this constituency. The 4 problems that plague this constituency are unemployment amongst the youth. The second one is high cost of living, where the average Barbadian can hardly pay their bills and survive on a day-to-day basis. I am going to have a website up and make sure I direct every constituent to that website to see what I am proposing to how we will solve those problems. But I am going to spend a few minutes tonight dealing with the crisis that occurs every evening between 5:30 and 7. That is the traffic crunch at 6 Roads. Everybody in 6 Roads, Emma Park West, Emma Park East, Marshfield, Farm Road, 4 Square, all out the chapel know of what I am saying. And I am going to propose tonight how we can solve this problem. Let me tell you why the problem occurred. Because I, the little boy, walk from Brayton there and go again and get a little turn over and roly-poly. And I come up the road going to out there, so now called Renal Weeks. It used to be St. Martin's Primary. And when I left there as a boy, I then went over to that head of school there, the princess of this country. And I went to that institution. And I thank the Lord for the opportunity, for the foundation that they gave me. Because out of that, I then was able to build and build to the point where I went through the University of the West Indies, went to Wittenberg University, studied Matter of Natural Science, and ended up with a degree in medicine and surgery. And I want to thank Princess Margaret and all the people in this area that helped me get there. Because I could not get there without Griffin. Without Griffin, lunchtime turnovers. Roly-poly turnovers. I couldn't get there unless I had some food from the islands and some cut drops. From there, so, by the Franklins. You see, I know who I am. I born in Brayton, but I spent a lot of years in the 6 Rose housing area as a little boy running about without pants. Next door to Edna through the house and at the Blazes. And I really left there, and then I used to be kept by the alleys there, so in Marchfield Village Road number 2. And then all my life was then spent in Brayton, so I am from here. So therefore nobody can run me from here. Not everybody in the Constituency is going to like me. Oh, that's all right. I may not like you too. But that's fine. But you cannot question my commitment and dedication to the people of St. Philip West because I am part of St. Philip West. And that's the reason why I never left the constituency, even though I lost. I stayed committed because my navel string buried about here. And I am going to do my utmost best to ensure that I find a way to progress this constituency in the best way that I can. Look, apart from the roads and the jobs that I would have created, let me go now to Operation Free Flow to make sure we don't have this bottlenecks every single day. There's so in 6 Rose. This is how the bottleneck developed. And I can tell you this because I know the development of 6 Rose has been building around a residential district that was in existence. So they were trying to build up a town, but they were constrained because the town was being built around residences that already were there before the town came. As a result, the major challenge regarding continuing its development occurred because of the close proximity of the houses to 6 Rose. Here you can see what I'm talking about in Marshfield. You can see what I'm talking about down there. You can see what I'm talking about there, so by Doreen. You can see what I'm talking about in Marshfield Development. You can see what I'm talking about going across there, so at Farm Road, and my part East and West. So there's no expansion capability for 6 Rose unless you go up Groves Road. So whoever designed to make 6 Rose a town either went sleep on the job and didn't understand that in order for 6 Rose to develop commercially, we're going to develop the businesses unless you go up Groves Road. Now, I have a solution for part of that as well. And we are going to therefore show you tonight where we can develop the commercial activities to expand commercial activities in 6 Rose. Now, in general, the bottlenecks occurred during the late evening period and they have to navigate the 6 roads roundabout. I am proposing something called Operation Free Flow. And Operation Free Flow will start by doing this. 1, all of you know that Marshfield Lower Road that comes from there by Didi Garner, going across to Sunbury Great House. That road that is in bad shape. If you were to pave that road, all of the people who are coming up Marshfield and got to break below the Williams Industry Place there and break back to Sunbury Great House, do not have to come to 6 Roads and get locked up in the traffic. You can come out and break left and go across to Sunbury and continue on your merry way. That will solve one set of problems. 2, for traffic traveling to 6 Roads roundabout and going to 4 Square, the plan is to extend the paved road that is now done to the train road and take that road straight out to the 4 Square Road in front of Davis Hill entrance. Once you do that, people who want to go for a road 4 Square side don't have to come and get locked up in the traffic around 6 Roads. Take the right turn and go across there. And in doing that, the 2 parcels of agricultural land on both sides, we will compulsorily acquire those lands, and on one side, we will build a number of civic centers that are needed because of the development, residential development area. What are those? So on one side of the road, we're going to build a police station. Too many people live in this road that depend on District C. We're going to build a fire station. We're going to build an ambulance center. By the time the ambulance get here to you, you're almost dead. Look. So imagine the road, Montreal Road, going straight across to in front of Davis Hill and open up. All that land there now we can use. And on the other side, we open up that for commercial activity for people in 6 Roads. You understand what I'm saying? These are things that representative has to do. Not talk about moving 6 Roads, say, Princess Margaret School, and putting it up inside the utility, 6 Roads industrial estate. Oh, what was all that? Pop it. That's what we're talking about. You can move Princess Margaret School and take Princess Margaret School and put it in industrial estate. Look. So, the 2 roads we are talking about now will be established. The new road in front of Didi Garner going across there out to Sunbury and extend the trade road out to in front of Davis Hill. But to relieve the traffic coming down from Sterling Bottom that comes in through Groves to 6 Roads, the solution for them are as follows. When you come down in front of the plantation, man, there is a car road that leads you out to nursery number 1. We will acquire that strip of land and we pave it so that you can now move from coming down Sterling and onto Groves, cross that paved road and come to nursery number 1 and you on 4 roads. You bypass the roundabout. These are the most efficient and effective ways to manage the bottlenecks that we now have every single evening after work. where the residents up here trying to get home. And I want, man, they could steal, but at least the people hear from me first. It could be a thief in the night. My mother tell me you can hide and buy your lamb, you can't hide the work it. So I am confident that following what it is I am proposing to you, I am asking you therefore to give me the opportunity to make these things real for you. And I say that because my record of getting things done in the constituency cannot be challenged by none of them puppets. None of them. None of them. And my mother tell me behave, but I don't want me fire, but you fire up, yeah. My mother tell me behave, son. Calm yourself down. You're a medical doctor. You want to get yourself a hernia? All right, I'm going to take it cool. What we will also do is that residents in this area, and I would always remember Rudy Boyce. Rudy Cross there in Fort Square used to always tell me we need to enhance the recreational and commercial activity in St. Philip. You know what? He's right. When I was a little boy, going up there so at 4 Rose, you had this Springer gas station right up there. All the land up there is owned by Springers. And then part of it was bought over by the Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union. And the next open plot that you see where the grass going down between 4 Rows and going around the 4 Square, that's owned now by Shafet. What we are going to do is that we are going to create a Oystins type big garden in 6 Rows. So there is activity in 6 Rows every night. And people can come and engage. The way you're going to envision this is how it is set up in Oystins. When we will acquire the appropriate land necessary and we can give back everybody out there kiosks. We ain't going to say franchise them. Kiosks. But the problem I have as a medical doctor is that we are carrying out commercial activity. There ain't no toilet. There ain't no place to wash your hand. There ain't nothing for the people to carry on decent work. I gonna put an end to that. And what we will do is that we will create the kiosk around the circle and then inside create the Oystins Bay Garden Entertainment Center and create a proper outcome of toilets and bars for people to engage in their commercial activity in a decent way. People who Steve is in jail here. And they can't teach none of them, they make enough sense. The problem with them is not teaching, it's implementation. You think a monkey could shoot a gun? Look, these are things that will radically improve 6 Roads. And everything I've said to you in Pie in the Sky is easily being done. The operation free flow is designed already. I know about the issue out there, and Neil Marshall, who was my personal assistant, can tell you we attempted to acquire the land out there for similar purposes. In fact, I have to give Jacket. Anthony Wood was actually the first person who spoke about an agricultural center for vendors and so on that same site. Right, so we weren't at variance. But the time has come because of the development of 6 Roads and St. Philip in environs that we must now stop the talk and get up there and do it. And I am confident that I know how to do it because I sat as Minister of Trade, Industry and Commerce. I sat as Minister of Economic Planning and Development and the person responsible for matters of finance and development in Barbados. And I therefore know how to get these things done. And as I said earlier, my record of getting things done in this constituency in a difficult time cannot be questioned by none of them out there. None. So I can only ask you, as tonight is the requirement I have as a requirement to get to Haggett Hall, and the other members will continue. But I can assure you that when we get to Britain, I will now be in a position to hopefully have, before that time, a website up that I am going to direct every single person in St. Philip and in St. Philip West too. That is how I would explain how we will deal with the two bigger problems that face this constituency: unemployment and rising prices to the point where poor people can barely buy food. There are solutions to that the government has to take responsibility for. Anytime at all your people are under pressure, it is the government you have to turn to for support. There nobody else you can turn to. You can't turn to business people because they're trying to survive by raising prices to you. And you're trying to survive by managing a budget, trying to eat. So in that, any further increase in prices, the only body you can turn to is the government for support. And why this government is recalcitrant and needs to get rid of some of the advisors that got out there who are worth what paddy pelt that. And my mother would normally tell me, no, they're stupid as Miss Carter's cat next door. Because I would just say one thing that I told the people out in Leadville as to how this matter can be resolved. But I would detail it more fully in the website that you can go freely and do what you got to do. I would explain a new development model that we got to stop getting all this nonsense that every 5 or 8 years you're back in the IMF hand in a cycle every darn time. I'm gonna deal with that. Well, they've got the problems coming because I will outline what the Article 4 concern the IMF said has to happen. Because they're saying the Article 4 consultation, which is the same as the birth, that you got to raise your pensions. Gonna got problems. You're going to pay more pensions. You're going to pay more NIS contribution. You may got to work longer hours. You may end up having to pay larger contributions, and then statutory corporations are going to lose many people, and a lot of the social services you're going to pay for. It's all right for the IMF to tell you that. But if your salary can't carry out, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can go to the IMF and tell IMF, what? I don't know what to tell you. I know what to do. I know what to do. Because the only thing you can do when a people is suffering on a day-to-day basis, you can't turn to nobody else but the government for relief. And the government can provide the relief. Because if you need to build on a rock stone extension of the house, and you ain't got the money, you just go to a commercial bank and say, fellas, give me ease. Give me a loan here. I want to build on this, a bedroom. I want to do this, I want to do that. They give you a loan. But a commercial bank loan carries interest because them gotta get money to pay the investors in the bank. But that is not the same with a central bank. The government owns the central bank. It belongs to you. You can borrow for your own bank. Bunch of idiots. So there is no shortage as to the money that you can get in order to carry out the development of your country and save your people. None. And all these things I will have on the website for you to read your letter and understand what he's saying. And everything I tell you here tonight is one of the reasons why I kept my mouth for 3.5 years. Because I was reading and studying, strengthening myself to come back. When I come back, the bounce up against a big rock this time. Because none of them will take me. And everything I tell you when I put on the website, I have references to statements from the United States Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan. I got statements from the Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke. I got statements to the Federal Reserve Chairperson for the New York Fed, for the Dallas Fed, and Daniel DiMartino Buffett, and let's go on. for you to see that what I'm telling you is factual. We don't have to always be going to IMF in hand and begging and destroying our country internally, day out and day out. I will bring all that information to you, and you will have to deal with it on your own. And the reason why I am a little bit perturbed, and it saddens me in some ways, because what I am talking about in BLP or DLP, I talk about Barbados, man. I really care about that. I care about what will happen to this rock in the next 18 months. And Barbados got sharp memories. That's what Sir Grantley Adams said. There are records saying that harsh measures have to come. What do you think harsh measures mean? More taxes, more laying off, more damage to your pension. And these are the same people that take away 1.6 million in cash from the NIS. And they want to come and damage you for that. But you took the decision, listen to White Oak. And other people, I waiting for them. I waited for one or two the first stone at me. Cause I'm from 6 rows, I spent big rock. Good. Good. And fast. Fast, man. So, I am only going to say tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that I will prepare myself to go to Haggard Hall. I gotta go home in bed, but my mother tell me the worst things I must say right, man. My mother ain't easy here. And let me tell you, Sunday, however, between that, I will have the website with all of the explanations for everything I'm talking about for you, so you can read at your leisure. And I'm gonna try to have it interactive, so that you can therefore we can communicate. I can tell you, well, look, explain this, explain that, and so on and so on. Because I know what I'm saying, I know how it can be done, and I therefore am asking you to give me the opportunity to carry out this rebuilding of this country on your behalf. This country has taken a scourge. It has been rocked by the Great Recession. It has been rocked by the debt restructuring that damaged so many poor people in this country, and it has been ravaged by COVID. We cannot go back to a pre-COVID economy. We now have to find a new way forward, a new development model, and I have that document that will be on the website for everyone to follow what I am saying and how we can do this together. And I can only ask you, therefore, is to read these things, and I'm confident that if you read them, you will say, man, this man knows what he's talking about. Because I don't open my mouth and talk. I don't like to hear myself sometimes. And the honest to God truth is that I can only do this if you have confidence and trust in me to get it done. And that is why I am here. And that is why I'm going to go the length and breadth, house to house, and walk and try to explain things to people and ask them to make the best decisions for their future. So, ladies and gentlemen, I done talk, and I going down Haggard Hall. I will see you on a Sunday, and the conversation will continue. So, pleasant good night to everyone, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Fire! 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 Begin. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. Begin. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. The best pick is Estwick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. St. Philip people know this is true. Estwick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Estwick. In transport and water, agriculture.
Night once again. The dog. I started tonight talking about leadership. And it is an issue. I understand that it's an issue for the other side. One of the things that I always say a good leader does, and I hope that most of you all will agree, would be to offer solutions, to support and encourage, to respect and teach. And by respect, I mean talk to us like adults who are educated and capable of thinking. And that is what Mr. Pisa has sought to do. The one on the other side encouraged people to get together shortly before Christmas of 2020 for horse racing at the garrison so she could turn on the lights. But then turn around and want to blame Barbadians for going on a bus ride. I talk to us like we are some sort of little child just because somebody gets you in there auntie me. She ain't an aunt to mine. She ain't a family to me. We ain't friends. She never caught me or buy a drink for me and I never went on she. I carry a drink there neither. Dr. Estwick and I sat down and had men that bear together. He's a friend of mine. Neil Marshall and I sat down and had long conversations. He's a friend of mine. Michael Lashley is a friend of mine. Andrew World is a friend of mine, not she. And she has this thing about coming to us and scolding us like we are little children. But that's how she treats all around her. That is why it makes me want to sing, you took to find time to leave me, Lucille. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to decide, do you all want a leader who is going to support, uplift, or one who's going to scold and put down? Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to bring to the platform Mr. Chapter Ince.
Good night to the wonderful people of Six Rose, Marchfield, the Train Road, those in the hearing of my voice, those of members and friends of the Democratic Labour Party, comrades of the Democratic Labour Party. Good night to the Princess Margaret Old Scholars, a wonderful institution, an institution that I attended, and if I had my life to live all over again, I would go back there. Have no regret. Members of the print media, electronic media, welcome to you. The detractors of the Democratic Labour Party, welcome to you too that are among us. January the 19th, my friends, is an important day in Barbados. It's a day that is going to determine the future of your children and grandchildren. It is going to determine the future of this country. It is going to determine the souls of Barbadians to rest peacefully at night in their homes. So tonight, like all the other nights, whether I was at Harlington, whether I was at Lynch's, we are going to have, for this election, the conversation. And my conversation with you, I am not going to go into any economics and finance. I can deliver economics and finance efficiently, eloquently, and soundly if I want to. But I'm going to speak to you tonight in simple language. And as I speak to you, you would answer me by pondering on what I have said and think about what happened prior to 2018 and 3 years leading into 2022. My friends, the Barbados Labour Party came to us with a covenant of hope. And that is why I said this conversation is about the future of Barbados, because you know what is in the present. No one can tell the future. It is unknown. But if you make right decisions, and you make decisions in which you are comfortable, then there is always the possibility and the probability that your future can work out well, despite the challenges that you may have. So what we are going to do on January the 19th, we are going to re-elect Dr. David Estwick as the representative for St. Philip West. Because Dr. Estwick, he never left us. He was there for us. So we must now re-elect Dr. David Estwick as the representative for St. Philip West. He has what I term a challenger, an individual who spent all of her working life outside of Barbados. And the Prime Minister have now seen it fit to bring her back into Barbados near retirement age to tell the people of St. Philip West that she brings skills and governance to Barbados, and she must be elected as the next representative. Now, I have a problem. I have a problem. As I said, we're having a conversation, and we're going to take stages in this conversation. If you are committed to your country, my friends, then you make a sacrifice. Keir McConney has made no sacrifice for Barbadians to Barbados. So the only thing, as I said before, that the Prime Minister wants is a yes woman in her cabinet. She was never a member of a social club, never a member of a political branch until 2018. So that is why I said that we do not know the future. But if you make a decision, that decision can also impact on what the future is. And we are not prepared. We are not prepared to waste our time and our vote on uncertainty when we have certainty in Dr. David Estwick. And I smiled because when Keir McConney was asked the question, and that is why I said Princess Margaret School, that great institution. When she was asked, what are your plans? Just in a few minutes ago, how Dr. David Estwick outlined the plans for 6 rows. You know what was her answer? Relocate Princess Margaret Secondary School to the industrial park and build a medical center for the Chinese. Have any of y'all ever went in to see the capacity of Princess Margaret Secondary School? A massive building. Princess Margaret has one of the biggest playing fields among secondary schools in Barbados. So you would have to be what you call an educated clown. You would have to be an educated clown to think about relocating Princess Margaret Secondary School. And where are you going to put it? You're going to put it by Marshall Trading? You're going to put it next to Carter's? You're going to put it next to the School Me Center? And this is an individual who said, oh, I want to represent you, but live all of your life. Let me say something to you. I don't walk around Barbados bragging and boasting. Never was. Never did. It is not part of me to brag and boast. But in 1996, I was an investment banker in Wall Street. I was in Wall Street investment banker, working for $3,000 a week. I ain't talking about a month. This young Jetta Inks was in Wall Street in New York in investment banking, working for $3,000 a week. The government of Barbados, and to this day, I have never had a conversation with Owen Seymour Arthur. I came home, put my bags down, and as most of you would see me, I went walking, jogging where the prison is now. And George Griffith, who is my friend for years, from cricket days, George Griffith slowed down. And I'm going to spend a little time to tell you, when you talk about sacrifice, Dr. David Estwick made sacrifices for Barbados. I made them, Neil Marshall made them, as well as Michael Ashley. We could have stayed outside of Barbados, purchase a home, have a gate, have some acres, and forget about Barbados. No. And when George said to me that the Prime Minister wanted to see my resume, as of today, I never had a conversation with the Prime Minister at the time. And he says he wants to see my resume. And when I sent the resume to George Griffith and give him, they came back to me and said, Jetta, we want you to come home to Barbados and manage the NIS fund. I came home in 1996, the 15th of December, 1996, and took up the post as finance officer, investment manager for the National Insurance Fund. 15th of December, 1996. And I came home and worked for the National Insurance for $4,952 Barbados dollars a month. And I leave a job that was paying me $3,000 a week. And came home to work for $4,952 Barbados dollars a month. You understand what I'm telling you? And I was cursed for it by some of my friends in New York. Even some of my family members thought that I was mad to leave a job paying me $3,000 a week at the top of my game to come home and work for the NIS for $4,952 Barbados dollars a month. You talk about sacrifice. And I say to you, I work along with the chairman of the board, Sir Henry Ford, who I have a lot of time and respect for. And I worked along with Sir Henry. And members of that board was Sir Roy Trotman, Joseph Goddard of the NUPW, the Goddard of the NUPW, and the CEO at the time, Stephen Allen, the late Stephen Allen. And when they asked me the question, Jetta, what are you going to do about the NIS? The NIS at the time only had $797 million in assets. I'm going to repeat it. Because when people, you don't have to walk about and brag. So when you talk about commitment, you have to vote for some person like Dr. David Estwick. What K.M. McConney have nothing to show of what she achieved in Barbados. She don't even know where Carlton Factory is. She don't even know where Foursquare unless you take her there. Spend all of her life outside of Barbados. And when they asked me, I said to the chairman, Sir Henry Ford, he said, Sir, $797 million in assets back in 1996. As a result of the aging population in Barbados, as a result of the change in demographics, we have to restructure the fund and we have to expand the asset base of the fund because the asset base was too much treasury bills and cash. And I'm going to make it short. My friends, with the help of the National Insurance Board, I couldn't do it alone. I couldn't do it. I had the help of the director and I had the help of the deputy director and support from the board. And within 5 years, I was the Lone Ranger. National Insurance had no investment department. I was the first investment manager for the National Insurance Board. And we were able to build the National Insurance Fund from $797 million in assets in 1996 to $2.5 billion in 5 years. $2.5 billion in 5 years. And that is why Barbadians could smile. Are you talking about sacrifice? But I would have more to say on the national insurance. I would have more. Because the Barbados Labour Party, in their ignorance and paying a company called Waito $66 million, assassinated the National Insurance Fund. I'm going to repeat it. The Barbados Labour Party came into office and they said that we were destroying the national insurance. But with all of the talk, at no time did any pensioner in Barbados had to wait a whole month without getting a pension. At no time. At no time. And whenever the Democratic Labour Party delivered a budget, we add $20 to the pensioners, to the old age pensions. Whenever a budget was delivered in this country under a Democratic Labour Party. The Barbados Labour Party came to office and they came with a covenant of hope. You know, it is amazing. It is amazing that you can hear Curry Simmons on media saying that, oh dear, if, you know, he's using the word, if when you vote for us again, we're gonna reduce the price of petroleum products. We are gonna reduce the price of goods and services. We're gonna reduce the price of food. Now people listen to me. That is why I am saying to you, we are having a conversation. This is not a political speech. This is a conversation between you and I, the followers on the internet, the followers on the social media. You want to tell me that they are now going to roll out policies to bring down food prices? Where are you going to bring the food prices down? I'm going to make something simple. Between 2008 and 2022 and 2018, that is why I said, I want you to reflect. I want you to remember, because January the 19th is critical. The Prime Minister of this country created a monster. Mayor Amar Mortley created a monster in Barbados. And come January the 19th, we are going to behead that monster. She created the monster with her cabinet, and we are going to behead it with our vote. We are going to take the head of the monster off. And they came to you. And many of you know very well that between 2008 and 2018, the price of a barrel of oil went to $200 a barrel. They are now calling it the Great Recession. And the leadership of the Democratic Labour Party, the Faradell Jerome Short and his cabinet, along with the Minister of Finance, Christopher Sickler, they were nailed to the cross because of the Barbados Labour Party propaganda that everything in this country was wrong, that the Democratic Labour Party was the worst thing that ever happened to Barbados. You said that Faradell Jerome Stewart wasn't talking enough. So you went to the polls and you elected and selected and gave a Prime Minister a full mandate of 30 seats to manage this country. And you went and you select a person who talks a lot. You didn't want a person who don't talk. That was very effective. You didn't want a person with a steady hand, with a calm head. No, we wanted somebody who talks a lot and who make us believe that they had all the answers. But the good book says, empty vessels make the most noise. So we move the Prime Minister from one side of the building. We moved the Prime Minister from the parking lot of the building and we took her to the office of the CEO. That's what we did with her vote. She was in the parking lot waiting for a ride and we gave her the ride. And as I speak to you tonight, many Barbadians realize that with all of the pretty talk, that when the Prime Minister reached the office of CEO, she was nothing more than a wolf in sheep clothing. A wolf in sheep clothing. All type of flowery language. Give me the vote and watch me. We are in this together. But I want to say something to you tonight and send this message to the Prime Minister and her cabinet. We are not in this together. You are in this by yourself, and we will deal with you come January the 19th. You created the monster. As I said before, you created the monster, and we will behead it. So, when you are going to appeal to Barbadians that the country is divided, that is why I said the conversation. So you have a Prime Minister that says this country is divided. You have 30 seats. Who do you expect divide the country? How did the country get divided? Not by the Democratic Labour Party, not by the people of Barbados. The country got divided by her own cabinet ministers because they were all singing in the same choir. They were singing from the same songbook. They had the same hymn sheet. All of them were singing together. And all of a sudden, the choir is now split. Because when they were singing together, they had the anthem called The Lost Decade. When they were all singing together and singing hallelujah, hallelujah, all in unison. But as I speak to you tonight, there is no more lost decade, and the choir has been split 17-13. 17-13. 17 members of the choir, along with George Payne singing alto, and the next 13 now with the Prime Minister singing soprano. You hear what I tell you? Or bass. So you got 17 on one side that singing the alto, and the next 13 singing the bass led by the Prime Minister. So they call an urgent election. But what they have to answer, I read that manifesto, I read the BLP manifesto. My friends, let me say something to you. I want all of you, whether BLP or DLP, to read the Barbados Labour Party manifesto. It is a manifesto of deception. I repeated it over and over again that the Barbados Labour Party has led Barbados for the past 3 years on 5 principles. Let me tell you what are those principles. The 5 principles that they led Barbados on are the principles of lies, deception, deceit, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money. Those are the principles on which the Barbados Labour Party ran this country. On the other hand, we in the Democratic Labour Party, we say to the people of Barbados over and over again that it is the objective, it is the way of the Democratic Labour Party that we want to manage a country that is socially balanced, economically viable, environmentally sound, and characterized by good governance. I'm going to repeat that. That was the Democratic Labour Party anthem. We said that we want to lead a Barbados that was economically viable, socially balanced, environmentally sound, characterized by good governance. And what do we have tonight? Tell me, what do we have? We have a Prime Minister who have surrounded herself by high-paid consultants. And I have repeated it over and over again. The Prime Minister, and you ask yourself, high-paid consultants? What are they doing? What do we have to show for it? And if you examine the manifesto of the Barbados Labour Party, you would realize that not only the deception and the deceit and the propaganda, but look around and ask yourself the question, as of to date, as of tonight, the government of Barbados have borrowed $886 million from the International Monetary Fund. Has nothing to do with the monies from China, has nothing to do with the monies from the World Bank, has nothing to do of what they borrowed from the Caribbean Development Bank, have nothing to do with what they borrowed from other institutions, have nothing to do with that. So as of tonight, the manifesto should say to Barbadians, how are we going to deal with that monies that we borrowed from the IMF? How are we going to deal with the houses that we have sitting in the industrial park in 6 rows that we imported from China? How are we going to deal with propping up? That's what we are doing, propping up the housing sector in China, and at the same time using US dollars from our foreign reserves to pay for houses in China, and have Barbadian artisans and carpenters unemployed. 3,500. 3,500, my friends. So the Prime Minister believes, and her cabinet, that flowery language, fancy words, we is we, I got your back, all of these type of things, and going on the world stage and having wonderful speeches and getting awards, while at the same time Barbadians are struggling to pay their light and water bill. In fact, they are struggling to make a choice between which bill to pay, whether you're going to pay the water bill this month or you're going to pay the light bill this month, whether or not you're going to pay the mortgage on the house or you have to pay the monthly payment on the car. That is what Barbadians face. So as I said before in other places, you have a Prime Minister, as the old people always say, and I'm going to repeat it, that's why I say we're having a conversation. And my father always said to me, and I have repeated this, son, you cannot go to breakfast with the devil and expect to skip lunch. how you're going to do it. But you have a prime minister who is now running with the hares in the international market and leave Barbadians to hunt with the hounds. And we are hunting. My friends, we are hunting. Not only are we hunting, but we are also hungry. And what they have done with the policies, when the Democratic Labour Party under Patrick Todd said that we were going to get rid of all the pit toilets, they called Patrick Todd the Minister of Pit Toilets. When they made the statement, they called him that, and then they said they were going to get rid of the pit toilets. As I speak tonight, as a result of the austerity measures and the struggles that we are facing in this country, the government of Barbados have no place your lives, have no place our struggles, have no place before us a mountain that is worse than a pit toilet. That is what they have done. And these are the same people who said that they are going to eradicate these challenges. So I am appealing to you, my friends, that on January the 19th, a vote for Dr. David Estwick, a re-election. Not electing David Estwick, re-electing David Estwick because he never left office. He looked after your children even out of office. He provided the help that was necessary. And a vote for Dr. David Estwick is a vote for the Democratic Labour Party. And a vote for the Democratic Labour Party is a vote for normalcy, is a vote for decency, and a vote for accountability and transparency in this country. That is what it is. So, when that time approaches, we are heading towards the finish line. I want you to sit down. I want you to ponder. I want you, as you go to bed at night, and as the sun sets in this country and rise in the morning, I want you to search your souls, search your spirit, ask for divine intervention, ask for wisdom, ask for understanding, ask for guidance, ask for deliverance, and say to yourself, I have listened, I have learned in the last 3 years, I understand, and I pondered which way to go. And the way to go is the way of the Democratic Labour Party. The way to go is support for the Democratic Labour Party. My friends, January the 19th, tie your dog. If you got a mule, tie it. Secure your pigs. Secure everything that you have. Cook for your children. Cook for your husband. Cook for your boyfriend. And walk to the polls, drive, run or ride, and says, Democratic Labour Party, Dr. David Estwick. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm indeed rather energized today to be here in Windsor Road, starting my formal campaign on the ground. The interaction with the people was indeed extremely positive, and I feel very confident that once I get the opportunity to explain to the residents all over the constituency why it is that we need to make some radical changes, and why it is that I'm going to ask them to repose confidence in me when the election is finally determined after the 19th. I want to give them the full assurance that I will protect their interests, and I continue to work hard and diligently on their behalf. But you know, the branch is fully mobilized, and we are going to continue this canvassing exercise every single day until that particular day when the votes are being counted. On January the 19th, I want you to come out to your numbers. I want you to come out to your numbers because Barbados is at the crossroads. We are going down the wrong path. But I came out of Budlam Baptist Church and Sister P Church. And I am not God. I believe in God and I can put God first in what I do. That's why I'm on the job. Rest assured of that.
I got dog food. But when you talk pedigree, a political pedigree, none on that side have more political pedigree than me. If you want to look at the founding of the Democratic Labour Party, you will find Harold Springer, my uncle, J.B. Springer Sr., my grandfather, and J.B. Patsy Springer, my father. And that does not make me feel that I am qualified, justified, or deserving to walk up into the House of Assembly as an elected representative, because I believe there are people out there who are better qualified for that role than I am. So tell them we are not interested in the pedigree, we are interested in the performance. Because on that side, the person that they're talking about pedigree, in racing parlance, the only thing its performance has been able to do is beat the ambulance. It is an also ran. How dare they think that because their family is so-and-so, the mother or father is this or that body, that they deserve a seat in the House of Assembly. And when they got that seat in the House of Assembly, what did they do? I can't think of anything constructive that they did. But what did they do to justify that support on the other side? I want to take you back a few years before the last election when the union met with government representatives and demanded a 20-something% salary increase. They were offered a structured salary increase over a 3 to 4 year period, which they bluntly refused. I think if my memory serves me right, it was been somewhere like 11% in total in the form of 5% 1 year, 3% and 3%, or it was the other way around, but something to that extent. And 2 days after an election, I set 5% one time. You know how much more salary those people could have taken home if they had accepted the deal they were offered that day at the Hilton Hotel? But that is what they did. They used the unions for political gain and then rewarded Tony Less with what could obviously be a stronghold seat that it was only a matter of how much she would win by, despite the great efforts by Floyd. That is what they think of us. They think that we are nothing more than pawns in the game of political chess across this island. They have never showed any significant interest in uplifting the working people of this island. I am not going to get out here and focus only on things like that. Chapter alluded to government paper, bonds, and how it affected the INIS. But I want you all to understand this. What they did with this debt restructuring program was convert the local debt into foreign debt, and in doing so, demolished the retirement plans and the income for many people across this island, as well as the NIS. Because what they did is take the interest and take it down to 1%. Now, that is the same rate you were getting in the commercial banks. But the difference is you could have walked in the commercial bank, take out your money if you want to buy a car, fix the house, whatever, take a trip, whatever your needs or desires were. Today, those people that had saved and worked hard and invested in bonds, their money, for the most part, is tied up. Yes, some of the pensioners got some paid back with a little bit every month, which they ended up more than likely having to live off of or use up, because really and truly we know that things in Barbados haven't gotten any cheaper over the last 3.5 years. And what did that do? It made the government bonds and paper no longer valid as collateral. And I'm going to tell you a personal story. I went in 2017 to buy a piece of equipment for my clinic just up the road there. And I was able to use government paper as collateral to borrow money from a certain financial institution. In 2019, I was offered a deal that would have been very hard to refuse. But being a man of straw, I didn't have that kind of cash, so I went to the same lending institution to borrow less money with the same government paper that I had used 2 years previously to borrow money. And the woman in there looked at me and said, "Doc, you got to be joking. We don't want that no more. That ain't used to us. We want to get rid of the ones we got." So not only did they decimate their value as far as interest goes, not only did they tie up your money for another 10 or 12 years, but you can't even use the paper to go and borrow money. And then, they will come recently, like they think we forget or foolish, I want to pay the government debt with government bonds at 0% interest. If you owe the government money, they put on interest, like the banks will. I mean, it's a small interest rate. But you know, small pain does jut hard. They want to pay your debt, pay you with government paper, with a 0% interest rate. They want to give you an IOU for an IOU so that they still owe you. And then they had a little clause which said that if there is a natural disaster, they will extend that payment by another 2 years. And I think that bond was due in 2032 or 33, somewhere up in there. Like you got 20, 32, or 33 put down in a plastic bag, Stuck up behind the fridge or in the cupboard somewhere in your house. Sweet raindrops are falling on my head. The thing that bothers me with this is the hypocrisy that they are using. You see, many of you may not remember, but in 1991, Sir Henry Ford made it quite clear that to pay debt, to pay bills, to pay people with government paper was illegal and immoral because it is not legal tender. The only way that they should even consider paying anyone with government bonds is if they can go down to the central bank office or the BRA, hand them the paper and cancel whatever debts anyone may have to them. But that is what they think of you. Remember this. Prior to the last election, a tax was introduced to help cover the costs of garbage, waste, and storage, etc. And it was attached to the improved value of your property. That meant that if you owned a $250,000 property, you were asked to pay just under $250 a year in that tax. It also meant that if you lived in a $1 million property, you were asked to contribute just about $1,000 to that effort. And if you had a $5 million mansion on the West Coast or lived on a big estate, you were asked to contribute just under $5,000 a year. The woman said, "Give me your vote and watch me," and you did. And you watched her get rid of that tax and replace it with a tax on water at $1.25 per day. And if you take $1.25 per day and multiply that by 365, you come up with a figure somewhere around $545 to $550, somewhere in that range. Depending if it's a leap year, maybe go up be 366 days. You come up with $540 odd a year. And what that means is that the wealthy people, the people with the $5 million mansions, got a 5,000% concession. And you that live or own a $250,000 property got a 100% increase in taxation. And then they come and tell you about shared sacrifice. One of the many sayings the light, you know, stay the course. Shared sacrifice. This is who we are. They don't know who we are. They forgot who we are in May 2018. They forgot who we are. But on January 19th, we could remind them who we are by going to the polls and placing our X where we choose. This idea that they have managed to create, that once you get on a platform and you have a lot of pretty sayings, or you wear a scarf around your neck, it doesn't matter what you do, where you do it, how you do it, when you do it, if you do it, it's wrong. Their use of social media by them and their lackeys. I will give you an example. Prior to 2018 election, every day you went on Facebook, they had a group called Potholes of Barbados. As of 2018 election, all the potholes in Barbados seem to have miraculously disappeared because the Potholes of Barbados group thing has disappeared off at least of my Facebook. You see, not that the potholes were fixed, but they took it out of your vision. They took the sewage out of your vision by putting it in the swamp. They are nothing but a bunch of artists, of smoke screens, clouds, and magic tricks. But we all know that really, truly, most magic tricks are nothing more than optical illusions. And that is what that is a party of, optical illusions. They get up and they talk about nasty politics. And yes, I know that both sides have thrown some political humor. I mean, I will tell you straight, I thought when the present Prime Minister referred to a certain gentleman as Malik only with teeth, it was funny. I don't know what Mr. Malik did to offend her. And Owen Arthur's dilapidated chattel house on prime real estate was humorous. But they have this idea that anyone who says anything negative about she of many scarves and sayings is attacking all women, like she is the global representative of women. And I don't recall that. As far as I know, she was the Prime Minister of Barbados. Granted, she spent so much time on the global stage parading that she neglected to deliver a budget in the House of Parliament for 2021. So we have no idea of government expenditure. We have no idea of government revenue. But we do know that we have consultants consulting the consultants about consulting the government's consultants. We do know that a cabinet of 16 that was too large prior to 2018 is now a cabinet of 20-odd people. We do know that she got a number of people so riled up within the party that she surprised them with an election. We know that election gimmicks were on their way. When she gave us a VAT-free shopping day, we do know she said she would not call an election during the pandemic, but she did. These are the things we do know, but we don't know how much money lie within the government coffers, how it get there, or how it's expected to be spent. That is what we do know. That administration has led us down a dangerous path of foreign borrowing. And I understand that COVID struck at the beginning of 2020 and created an economic nightmare for us and any government as a whole. And I will openly admit that I felt allowing the cruise ships to come ashore was a good humanitarian gesture, even though her subsequent actions made me wonder if she did it for humanitarian reasons or not. But I will give her the benefit of the doubt. Just like I will accept that I will not blame her for the economic woes that befell us 2021 and extended into 2020, extended into 2021, and seemed to be coming our way in 2020. I wouldn't blame her all for it. But between the post-election economic bounce of 2018, that one quarter, and the end of 2019, according to the central bank, we did not have one single quarter of economic growth. Not one single quarter of economic growth. And I think that is partly because of their debt structuring program. You see, that interest money that they would have gotten from the bonds I talked about earlier, that would have helped support the economy throughout 2018, 2019, and I need to say 2020 and 2021. That little interest would have helped. But no, they went and got this two-man show called White Oak to restructure the debt. But remember, that party has always had a problem with wood. Whether it was hardwood, white oak. I know we have a gentleman who's going to come here tonight and give us some more problems, and that man's name is Wood too. So ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice tonight. You can go home, forget everything that was said out here tonight, or you could go home and, if you doubt me, verify the things that were said. And I'm sure that when you go home, you think about what was said, you would recognize the need to go to the different constituency offices across St. Philip and vote for Michael Ashley, vote for Neil Marshall, and vote for Dr. David Estwick. Let us return St. Philip to where it rightfully belongs. Let us go there from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and vote for Dr. David Estwick. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that we will have a brighter, much better future under the Democratic Labour Party They're under that motley bunch of political misfits. But before I go, I want to ask you all to give a rousing welcome to Mr. Anthony Wood. Bless you and good night.
Estwick was a real proper man. He was a man for his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Estwick looked up for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever, every time he's been. He doubled the money or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapel and St. Philip, and I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter with my son at work. He helped my children, right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John came and forward, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Estwick was in. All I know, Estwick out. I still been seeing Estwick around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Estwick, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know now straight too, he don't just say, he's a man of his word and he always there for you, day work.
Today has been a pretty hard day for me. As this campaign advances, we see the need to intensify our efforts, recognizing that the stakes in this election are extremely high. As a result, some of us over in Mr. Marshall's camp, we have recommitted to canvass as aggressive as possible, to drop many an envelope across different parts of the constituency. So that requires a fair amount of hard work and dedication. But I can assure you that this hard work is paying off and paying off well. But I would not be too weary for the remainder of this campaign to keep my voice away from the Democratic Labour Party platforms in St. Philip. And if by chance a request comes from elsewhere, I certainly wouldn't be too weary to participate elsewhere as well. It is becoming a bit monotonous for me to be saying that this election is an extremely critical election. And if it takes me saying it time and time again, for it to sink into the hearts and minds of those who have to go and exercise their right, a right that was fought for by many a person years ago, the right to vote. And we have had to be extremely careful and very deterministic in when we canvass to impress on every person we encounter that opting out of this election, notwithstanding the frustrations you have with the current administration, that is indeed not the appropriate thing to do. Not voting might indeed result in an outcome that is very unfavorable to those who refuse to vote. And I really do not want this election to be characterized by voter apathy, which results in an undesirable outcome And I start at this point because I'm reminded quite easily about what transpired in the last few elections in the Caribbean. In Jamaica, Andrew Holness's Labour Party was returned to power with an extremely low voter turnout. Those of you who follow these things would remember that the voter turnout in Jamaica was somewhere in the neighborhood of 37.7%. And that not just resulted in a return of the Labour Party to government, but it led to an increase in their majority. In Tobago the other day, we had a virtual landslide for a new party. In Barbados' case, vote apathy. If what happened in Jamaica is to be replicated, means that the Barbados Labour Party will be returned to power, or could be returned to power, with a very, very handsome majority. And this is a serious call. It's a very serious call because I've read in very recent times statements attributed to Prime Minister Motley, and I've seen some fairly spontaneous reactions to that statement. That Barbadians ought not to vote for the opposition. That Barbadians ought not to vote for any opposition for that matter. That is very dangerous. Ms. Motley did not say, based on what I read and what was commented, that the Barbados Labour Party, by virtue of its stewardship, should be returned to power. So based on its record, vote for the Barbados Labour Party. But her focus is on an opposition that is gaining momentum. She might be running scared, I don't know. I haven't spoken to the lady for some time. But she should be focusing on putting the record of the Barbados Labour Party to the people and seeking to get a mandate based on the performance of the Barbados Labour Party. But instead, she is turning her attention in true despotic style and beseeching Barbadians not to vote for the opposition. I've been around this thing now for quite some time, but there's certainly some things that I've been hearing in this campaign from the Barbados Labour Party's platform and from their supporters that really take the cake. Never before, certainly, when I was in elective politics with Owen Arthur, we could have come to the people based on our performance and asked for a renewed mandate based on our performance. This is the first time that I have known a party coming for a renewed mandate and focusing on the opposition. That was done in the last election. They focused on the Democratic Labour Party with good cause too, and I helped them too. But this is the time that you should be putting what you have done. If you do your own assessment, which you obviously would not believe, but if objective assessments were done on how you perform, that is what you should be focusing on. So that is an admission by the Barbados Labour Party Prime Minister, without you realizing it, that she and the party have failed the Barbadian people in the last 3 years and 7 months. Within the last couple of days, inconsequential on the release of the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto, I've heard a lot of comments as well. I've heard comments on the political gimmicks that appear in the manifesto based on what persons have said to me, because to be very honest,
what has come out the manifesto, to me, it does not give me inspiration to read the document. Because if those are supposed to be the highlights, then I am without desire to read the document in any detail. But I've also been around long enough to know that Barbadians are indeed tired with this poor approach to politics. And I say it's a guttural approach to politics because what I have heard, it means that the Barbados Labour Party has continued on that trajectory of insulting the intelligence of Barbadians. And I start here because it is a very serious thing that they are attempting to replicate. And it is time that Barbadians wise up to the intentions, or indeed misintentions, of politicians when on the eve of an election, with the country in a complete economic mess, a country that has experienced social decay at an alarming rate since the introduction of the BERT program, a country that has regressed by leaps and bounds from a moral perspective, a country that is struggling with itself, and a country that has experienced a governance breakdown never seen in the history of life in Barbados. And why we should be joining together in a very focused way to see how this country can be restored to a path of some level of economic prosperity in a consistent manner. Why we should be coming together and seeing how the most vulnerable in our society can be uplifted so that their social circumstances can be improved. Why we should be coming together and placing the church leaders of this country out front so that they can send messages in a very unified fashion so as to bring back some level of moral understanding and chart a new moral compass for Barbadians and the country. On the eve of an election, we are saddled with a document which contains, from what I have heard, a whole set of promises which I could only consider to be a series of unbelievable lies. And I thought that in an election in 2022, that we had moved beyond that. And one of the first things that jump out of it is this notion that when the treasury broke, a government that is in a program with the IMF, one that reaches its conclusion in September of this year, one that has had to be revised so that the government gains access to a little more fiscal space, thereby having the country return to a debt problem of similar proportions to what there were when the government changed in 2018, notwithstanding the unilateral decision of the Motley administration to wipe off, repudiate, refuse to pay, take about $4.5 billion in debt off the government books. And of course, that debt would have been scattered across the books of many creditors to the government, and their portions had to be taken off as well, because the Barbados government said that we do not intend to pay you whether you like it or not. When that was done, quite unfortunate for those who had invested in the government. Very unfortunate for them to have lost so much money. National Insurance Fund, $1.6 billion. Central Bank, $1.268 billion. Private financial institutions, even private creditors, meaning households. Very unfortunate. This government now, with a broad treasury, a clear signal sent that the government will indeed struggle to meet the payments only for personal emoluments, and anything outside of personal emoluments, especially if they are in the nature of financial obligations incurred in previous years, we have to use bonds. But even in this current dispensation, the government stumbled on another program called the BOSS program, the Barbados Optional Savings Scheme. And that was also a signal of how tight the treasury was. Because the government put an offer to civil servants, I thought earning beyond a certain threshold of pay, that we need a little help. We need for you to forego a portion of your salary if you can afford it, and take some bonds. Take some bonds and you can get the cash for those bonds, hopefully in accordance with the maturity structure of them, for those civil servants who accepted them. So that happened over a year ago. Some took, more civil servants quite rightly remembering what happened to them when the government came into power, and they had to take a written down value on investment in government paper. The majority of them said, nah. That experience is a little too fresh with us. But some of them did. And whereas we thought that the BOSS program had eligibility only to those who were working for beyond $4,000 or $5,000 a month in the civil service, one family known to me very well, a young lady, and this is a very hurtful thing. It's a very hurtful thing. That this young lady is at the bottom of the pay scale at this statutory corporation. This young lady gets pretty much the lowest wage in that corporation. And this young lady was not prevented. She was not prevented from taking a portion of her pay, maybe $500 a week or so, not prevented from taking a portion of her pay in bonds. So what that told me was that the program was so heavily undersubscribed that they then opened it up to any and every person working in the government service and in quasi-government organizations. And what is so disgusting and disturbing about their lowering or extending the eligibility criteria is if that young lady's experience is anything to go by, she wants to cash in those bonds. She never should have taken them in the first place. But she wants to cash in on those bonds, and she has been told that she has to hold them to maturity, or indeed look for someone to buy her bonds on the secondary market. And of course, because her savings are so meager, that amount of savings in bonds would not attract an investor very easily on the secondary market. So the lady has had to stop subscribe to them, but she's had to hold on to those bonds for another couple of years until they're mature. Now, I really don't want to say this is characteristic of the behavior of this administration at large. But if you lay down eligibility criteria, you ought not to be relaxing the eligibility criteria because those who you are targeting for the program say that the program is not attractive to me, this government isn't to be trusted. So you come now and you let all and sundry persons of very meager income tie up such small portions of their income in bonds. That is wicked. So when you read when the Treasury brought anything outside of purse emoluments virtually now met by the payment of bonds, the debt settlement arrays 2021 bill, the bonds that there are indeed foisting on persons who the government is in arrears with, they don't even carry an interest rate. This government is a classic government, man. Forcing people to take bonds as a form of payment without an interest rate. This is a classic government. It is a wicked government. It is an unfair government. It is a high-handed government. Because any government who could force people to take bonds with zero interest rate, that is a government that is anti the people who they're asking to vote for them. And you know, the people in Barbados, they have a whole set of reasons not to vote for the Barbados Labour Party, you know. And they have added that as another reason in more recent times. So this manifesto that has been produced, it has been told to me that the government looking to take what? 39,000 and something Barbadians who pay a land tax away from the responsibility to pay a land tax. And another 24,000 and something will pay a land tax at a reduced rate. Now, I think Barbadians know accustomed and tired with that sort of foolish gutter politics. This administration, when it came to power, in search of revenue, made an adjustment to the rates on which land tax were to be paid, to the values. So if they didn't adjust the rate, they adjust the base, which is the value on which the tax is levied. And some Barbadians for the last 3 years have been crying out and crying out and crying out. And the government has been turning a blind eye to them. And all of a sudden, and they were crying out before the pandemic came, before government taxation revenue was reduced by hundreds of millions of dollars. They were crying out before the pandemic set in. They were crying out when the tourism sector, up to the winter period, ending in March 2020, when the tourism industry was indeed fairly healthy by way of returns. So if in those years, 2018, 2019 especially, even though we had entered the program with the IMF, the taxation revenue was fairly close to what the government had projected, close to $2.6 billion. The government couldn't see it fit to provide an ease in the multiplicity of fees and increases in land taxes. Now, how on God's earth would this Barbados Labour Party administration expect that with tough times ahead, as stated by Motley as a rationale for calling a snap election, how on God's earth, when the treasury broke, could Barbadians be expected to believe that with a broke treasury, that hundreds of millions of dollars can indeed be denied entry into the consolidated fund? I mean, we must have some Houdinis and some magicians but here in Motley's administration. Because if them believe that garbage, then it can't be any surprise to any of you that the country is where it is, because that could only be considered voodoo economics or voodoo finance. But it goes a little further. I read in the newspapers the other day that on the eve of an election, those persons who have occupied that land down in the bell for a considerable amount of time, some negative things were said on a consistent basis about their occupation without permission of the land over there. How the land is their residents are sitting on top of a water table and they're compromising the quality of the water from the Bell pumping station, and the negative comments go on and on and on. Those people were crying out for their circumstances to be regularized for the longest while. And all of a sudden, on the eve of an election, my good friend Trevor Prescott must see standing or sitting on shaky ground. So they put this next political gimmick, gutter politics again, out for public consumption of garbage, that all things high and nice and mighty will of urgent necessity get to the folks in the bell. They can get roads, they can get the sewage system, they can get all the amenities that they've been asking for decades and decades, just because an election is in the air. So we are to consume such information, and Barbadians, especially those who are suspecting Barbadians, are supposed to internalize that misinformation and that garbage and go and tell other people about it too. Because that will serve the Barbados Labour Party's cause well in seeking to be re-elected to office. And these are the things that we have to live with. I saw some information by way of comments from Kerry Simmons's, one of his addresses at a political meeting. A further insult to the intelligence of Barbadians. That the freight charges would be reduced if the Barbados Labour Party wins the next election. You really understand how brazen these people are? The freight charges will be reduced if the Barbados Labour Party wins the next election. You understand what that is saying if you dissect it? that bringing down the cost of something that is important to all businesses in Barbados that do business through the port, that item in the menu of cost of those businesses will only be addressed by the Barbados Labour Party if the people in Barbados would be so foolish to vote for the Barbados Labour Party in the next election. But Kerry, I will consider him still a good friend of mine. But you went to the same school as me. You went to the same university as me. But you can't expect that while I would not come and insult the intelligence of Barbadians, because let me tell you something, you know, it's virtually one of those things that is an inducement for a vote then, right? And I say a police officer there. But it really is an inducement for a vote. And these people are brazen here. These people are very brazen. You need to keep your eyes on them here. Because if they're only going to do things for Barbadians, having brought the country to its knees in its fullest dimensions, if you vote for the Barbados Labour Party, now they're telling you straight up, you got hardship. We would only relieve you of hardship if you vote for the Barbados Labour Party. But let me tell you something. That is an insult. And that is another reason why you shouldn't vote for the Barbados Labour Party too, because they're insulting your intelligence. I got another report from some meeting. I suppose it has found its way into the document, which I may or may not read in the next couple of days. That if the Barbados Labour Party is returned to power, in the most hasty fashion, a committee will be constituted with a focus on doing something about the high cost of living. Boy, this could easily be the last election I participate in. Because if I have to come on a platform and comment on that that sort of approach, that gutter approach to politics, night after night, good thing is only for a short election. It really means that I am stuck in the business of repeating myself over and over about the behavior of politicians as we move further into time that I thought that we had left behind us at least a decade or two ago. And if that is all politicians could come to offer at a time when this country is in a complete mess, I fear for the future of the country. I really fear for it. Because if that is what the prominent members of the Barbados Labour Party could be bringing, you know, and all of it obviously will be sanctioned, hopefully, by the Prime Minister, you know that if we don't move to another administration, and we don't move to have another set of people who are serious about improving the circumstances of people's lives, that this place would indeed slump from bad to worse. And maybe that is what the Barbados Labour Party wants to do, because more and more people will retreat from participating in the process of national reconstruction. And once you retreat from participating in the process of national reconstruction, you will be playing into the hands and you will be handing over a country that is battered to a prime minister who could then move into another stage of dictatorship. And it's happened in many a regime. And this country is heading into a bad stage of its development. It's heading into a very terrible stage and state of its development. Since the last election, yes, they inherited economic problems, but they didn't inherit governance problems of the scale that we are experiencing now. And we better stand up. Stand up and take serious note of what is happening in this country. Up to this point, I have not mentioned anything about St. Philip West, about St. Philip South, about St. Philip North, or about any individual constituency. And it's very deliberate. It's very deliberate because the issues that I'm talking about are much bigger than any individual constituency that the issues they're confronted with. And people need to be warned and warned and warned. Because if they don't take the warning seriously, then they're going to pay, and pay dearly after the next election. Because all of those things that in the nature of goodies, people ain't foolish. Tough decisions must come after the last election, and that is a truthful statement that the Prime Minister made. Tough decisions came immediately after the last election, and we went into a program with the IMF with tough decisions. The pandemic came and ensured that tough decisions had to be taken too, with regard to extending the government hands to promote a larger welfare program to stop families from going under in an unprecedented way. But if you think for one moment that with the Treasury broke, tough decisions to be taken, that those things can be done, I am extremely sorry for you, but I know they can be done. I also know from the study of economics that there's indeed something called Ricardian Equivalence. A nice concept. A Ricardian Equivalence tells us, simple, and I can put it down into the layman's term that the fellow walking up there, who doesn't know where the economics rooms are at the university, he could understand it quite easily. Ricardian Equivalence said that if the government gives you something in one hand, thereby reducing the government's revenue, that you can look for the government taking it back almost instantaneously via the other hand through the imposition of taxes. So if there is a reduction in government savings, and there is the provision of the opportunity for private savings to be increased by you having to pay less taxes based on those stupid promises that the government bring in, that you could very well look in short order for the government to find a way of increasing its revenue by another set of taxes, and thereby reduce your private savings by a commensurate amount. So the net effect is that you're now better off. That is Ricardian Equivalence in a nutshell. So don't feel that people didn't know about these things. But those things cannot see the light of day. And Barbados aren't foolish, because they know that they're just political gimmicks. They promise now to deal with the problems in the belt why I mentioned it is because Mr. Prescott, man, Trevor, nice fella, but he has outlived his usefulness as a member of parliament. Very nice fella, little over 70, very strident in his views about certain things. But he has lost the energy for politics now, and he is virtually gone beyond his shelf life. And you know, when something has gone beyond its shelf life, you're supposed to do with it. Because if you consume it, it is likely to make you very ill. Trevor has indeed gone beyond his shelf life as a politician. But I see in the papers, Trevor, for a still photo of Trevor with a smile. This is not an election promise. But it is coming at an election time, you know. So I do not know you can disentangle the two things at all. He really would have to be a magician. We are not to believe that is an election promise, but it is coming at the election time. So I will call Trevor tomorrow and see if he can unravel that for me. Because I'm a little lost, okay, as to how this can be an election promise, but it coming at election time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get a little closer to home. I'm standing here on the footprint of a building owned by Dr. Estwick. I'm also looking across at vehicles entering upon the roundabout to go off on the node that their journey takes them. I had a serious discussion with Dr. Estwick and Adrian Bradford in recent times. And we were looking at what are the simple, practical things that can be done to improve the ambience in this 6 Rose area. I remember some years ago when Arthur, in his futuristic look at Barbados' development and how we can decentralize the economic activity in Barbados. As when Arthur, like myself, he used to sleep very little and spend a lot of time thinking about how development could proceed in Barbados in small ways, in medium-sized ways, and of course, in accelerated ways on a larger scale. And Prime Minister Arthur at the time, he said with funds permitted, but the energy and the focus was there. Can we establish economic zones to take some pressure off of the already existing economic zones at the time? 6 Rose obviously was one of those. Is another speaker coming? Hi? Hi? That's police. But I mean, if I speak and I should determine whether you can stop, or the police will go stop me if you have a time limit, but you can't tell me 5 minutes. However, 6 Rose was one. So in my time, and with one Arthur's belief that there was potential to enhance economic activity here in 6 Rose, Mr. Arthur took a deliberate decision to take a parcel of land, agricultural land there, coming down from Grove, and he took it out of agricultural land Take it out of agriculture. Because he understood that if you're going to bring businesses into 6 roads on an incremental basis, you need to surround those businesses with higher housing density. So that Emerald Park project saw the light of day with Mr. Arthur's approval. 545 houses in varying stages of that Emerald Park project. And that was designed to increase the opportunities for businesses right here in 6 rows. And you saw, since the houses came, other businesses followed. In more recent times, we saw the establishment there of the J.B. Simpson complex. That is development. But he ensured that when I was the minister responsible for public utilities, that if the houses are coming, equip them with the necessary things. So he asked me to work with Eastern Land Development to ensure that the houses were indeed provided with natural gas one time, so that when the roads were paved, the natural gas infrastructure was already in. This 6 rows, notwithstanding where it has reached, needs a few things done to it. And one of the things that we discussed, there were 2 main things we discussed. I don't know if Dr. Estwick spoke about these things earlier. He did? Good. But you will see that I'm not telling any lies. But the simple plan to reduce some of the congestion, traffic congestion, from that roundabout at peak times, that will go a long way. It will go a long way not just to relieve some of the frustrations of the constituents of St. Philip West. I don't live in St. Philip West, but I know when I come up from town, and I aiming to come on Marchfield Road, and I get back up all the way down to where Fabby Shop was, I'm frustrated too. So what is a simple way that we can deal with this? Not costly, just call for some sort of effort, and for somebody to just conceptualize this simple thing. So since Dr. Estwick spoke about it, I won't have to repeat it, but it takes the will and a bit of foresight. And of course, you know the last representative, since he's gone, I would not waste my time dealing with John. Because his constituency office was very close to some of the roads that Dr. Estwick would have spoken about, which, if they are indeed paved, would take a considerable amount of traffic off of this roundabout at peak times or even normal times. Because if I come up from town in the road out to Sunbury, where the vet lives, and Sunbury Great House, if that road can be paved and made pleasing to the eye and easy on the vehicles, all the vehicles going out Church Village side, bam, won't have any need to come through 6 roads. And if they fix the road there, Marchfield Road, opposite the train road, all the vehicles going up Congo Road and things ain't got to come through here, you know. Got to go along through there, come up where Fabby took the shot. And if you bore through and you fix where Adriel's mum lives, and you give the road a little widening and you pave it, the vehicles can butt out opposite the market. So all the vehicles going up Congo Road, they didn't need to come through there. If, as you take them through the residential areas, you need to put in some speed humps. That is a very inexpensive activity. But to ensure that they use that road going through Marchfield
right through it, instance, living now up in front of the market. If you want them to use the Farm Gardens Road, the Farm Road as we call it, you got to fix that too. So you got to fix from Congo Road coming right down to 6 Roads. That can cost a fortune. That is a fraction of the cost of having to build a flyover somewhere to deal with the same problem of traffic congestion at a particular point. But we also examine the congestion coming from Upper St. Philip. So coming from Upper St. Philip, because coming down here now with those two, the gas station there, and Shafet contiguous to it, that's a nightmare, especially when the school children walk across to go up to Princess Margaret. So we say we got to release the traffic off of 6 Roads, not just going so, but coming so too. So there's another very simple plan for that. Some vehicles going over to the airport or over my side in 4 Roads, they already go through Emerald Park, just below Automotive Art. If that becomes traffic through there, that shortcut becomes too much, you can put in some humps as well to slow down the people. And a considerable amount of traffic coming down here just to get over to the airport will be taken off the 6 Roads roundabout as well. But there is indeed another opportunity even before they get to Emerald Park. If you go into nursery number 1 and come around by Duca and go where the road stops, there is a natural path which has been used for donkey years. And trucks like mine still use it to get from nursery number 1, where the paved road stops, on to Grove Road. It's a very short stretch. The road is already mapped out. So you just have to pave that road. So vehicles coming down from Upper St. Philip can make a left just below Grove Plantation Yard, above Simmons Electrical, and just drive on to nursery number 1, come out close to 4 Roads, and make their merry way up to Curtains and over to the airport. So all we're doing is improving the road surfaces in and around 6 Roads. And Estwick would have told you the plan, if you're coming up from Marchfield, you go on the train road, you can cut a road to split the agricultural field on that side, and you can butt out down by the rum refinery over there at David C's place. Those are just simple ideas that Bradford, Estwick, and myself said I would come up with. But those are not expensive things. But if you fix all of those roads, you're not only satisfying the requirements of the motorists and reducing some of their frustration, but every resident that live along those stretches who have been crying out for good roads for the longest while, their request would have been looked after as well. So you'd have served the interests of multiple persons by just doing a simple project like that. The other thing we looked at is that vending that takes place right there in 6 Roads. It's not aesthetically pleasing. But you see simple vendors trying to make a living, and that is to be encouraged. But this area, the government seeking to regularize the circumstances of vendors along the highway. But you know that John King is. I mean, the boy got anything at the deep end, and he came at the right time. And he also left at the right time too. But that triangular portion of land there, which I must tell you when I first ran, back in 1999, we had a plan for it. And on Arthur almost accepted it. Because we were going to put a civic center right there. I even saw the drawings for them too. A civic center right there,
which would include shifting the library over there, putting in a police station over there, moving the post office and put it in the civic center over there. And if you had enough space, we were going to put a magistrate court over there, 2 and 6 wards, and a fire station. And if he still had a little room left, we will have a home there for a few ambulances too. All that was part of my master civic center for right there. And the portion where the vendors are, the portion closest to the roundabout, that was supposed to be prepared properly. So that vending, which is aesthetically pleasing to the eye, could take place there. So that idea must be brought back on the drawing board. And Estwick needs to find a way of driving it when he is returned as the Member of Parliament for this constituency, because 6 rows need to look different. There's got to be a different feel about 6 rows when Estwick comes back to power. So ladies and gentlemen, I think I can stop now and save my voice for next week. But we need to do something with these 6 rows. We need to let the businesses get their business without thinking that they're offending motorists when they're trying to get home after a hard day's work. Thinking that they're offending motorists when they're trying to get to work on time. They're not offending the school children when they're looking across the road. Because it's only going to get worse with the J.B. Simpson complex coming there, when more and more vehicles will want to actually come on the roundabout or close to the roundabout. So those vehicles which are non-essential in these circumstances, if we can take them off the roundabout, let us aim with great seriousness, and that's Estwick's job. My job is to come up with ideas and talk about them. But it's my job to drive them after he wins. That's his job and his team. Let us get those things done. This campaign will indeed move on to other areas. And as I said all along, the stakes are indeed extremely high. You have to ensure that there's no complacency. Yes, we know that K. McConney is a relative unknown. Yes, we know the Barbados Labour Party has done itself a disservice in the way in which it manages the country. I see now that the Democratic Labour Party's campaign to some extent is focusing on the leader of the Barbados Labour Party, and rightly so, but do it with facts, do it with figures, do it with proper information, and there are loads of information for which can be used to expose the leader of the country's hypocrisy in deceitful ways, her despotic behavior, loads of information. Even up to this day, I can go and pull the Barbados Labour Party manifesto from the last time, and I will see words to the effect a new deal for the nurses in Barbados. It is in there, you know. But lo and behold, they are going into an election having mistreated and ill-treated the nurses in Barbados, some of the most important workers in Barbados during this pandemic. They have indeed held to their end of the bargain, notwithstanding the lack of things to work with, notwithstanding the physical conditions of some of the buildings they work in, because they understand that the call to duty at a time like this, when the country is facing a pandemic, they have to elevate their worth, we have to elevate their worth, and they're indeed stuck to the task. And any government, especially in a pandemic, that can see the need to be spiteful to nurses, that is an uncaring government. And we all have to be in solidarity with the nurses because what is happening to them is very unfair. For this government to pay a hazard allowance to a set of nurses who work on the front line in the hospital, and not to pay the same hazard allowance to nurses who work on the front line at the airport, at the front line in the polyclinics every day in the pandemic. That tells you something about the heartless nature of some members of the Barbados Labour Party. Something will have to be fundamentally wrong that even at this time, this government can see it fit to dish out such ill treatment and mistreatment to those who are called upon to serve our lives not only during a pandemic, but in ordinary, non-pandemic times. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because there will be other opportunities over the next week for me to come in dialogue with you and to engage in public discourses of a very serious nature. And they have to be serious because this election is very serious. And I have to be beseeching, not just when we're canvassing, but from this platform and from all the others, beseeching Barbadians to vote with their head, beseeching Barbadians not to fall for any promises which are unbelievable, and beseeching Barbadians to find the strength and the resolve to retake this country from the Barbados Labour Party and out of the hands of a rampant dictator who is just waiting for the results to be announced in her favor. And then we will all be sorry if it ever happens. Ladies and gentlemen, do the right thing. Do the right thing. Difficult as the circumstances are, and they will be going forward, let us at least put the country in a position for proper governance to be restored. I'm obliged to you. Thank you.
What would you say to the coming of a brand new day, when the shadows are falling away, even from the eyes of your stand up and fight back. You got nothing to lose. Stand up
Good
and
night.
fight back.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Wood. We have come to the end of tonight's meeting. We want to thank you all for coming out, listening to myself, Dr. Estwick, Mr. Wood, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Ince. We hope we have put forward a good case, a strong case, and the right case to encourage you to go out and cast your vote for the candidate for St. Philip West, the representative of the Democratic Labour Party in this constituency, Dr. Cleveland Estwick. Thank you and good night.
David Estwick, he was always my representative, and he will be my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Estwick to be a very good man. I met him personally, and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that willing to do for anybody that could help bring up the self the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents, and he's always for all. He's very vibrant, and again, you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados, and for all.
He used to always look out for the people,
Like anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure. I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe. And I will always vote for you though. And it's always for you, David. Always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Brighton, Sunbury, even 6 Rose, Ebenezer. Estwick never left me out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry when Mr. Estwick.
David is a proper man. He's good and he's always around the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the Constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David are retired. David are retired. David are retired. David are retired.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David Estwick. Always for you, David Estwick. Jesus.
Well, David Estwick is a very nice gentleman. He comes around and socializes with everyone. The young, the old, everybody he does socialize with.
I met David in 2007 when he was Minister of Economic Affairs. He gave me a grant and honestly I was very thankful.
David Estwick don't leave out people no matter what. I had a couple months there my feet was hurting me and my son called him and David Estwick come right down by me and check my feet and told me I will get back to you. And he did get back to me and he brings some medication for me and look, right now we're walking good. I don't want a doctor no more because he come and assist me. A very good man. Go on, a better person than him.
Always for you.
Always for you.